Joining me now, I have political analyst and author Rich Rubino. Rich, thank you for joining me. So these journalists are being asked to testify after publishing anonymously sourced stories that the Secret Service urged the president to take the old version of Air Force One back home from NATO because this gifted plane lacked defensive countermeasures. What are you expecting from their testimonies this week?
I don't really expect very much. I don't know what they're actually going to necessarily say. It's interesting because actually there is precedent, if you go back to 1972 in Brandenburg versus Hayes, that journalists do have to actually testify, but there is also certain strictures that the federal government has in terms of what they have to say when they have to testify. So it'll be very interesting to see what they actually do in this process. Is
this less about going after the journalists and more about the White House finding out who the leakers are within the administration?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think there's a lot of acrimony that Donald Trump certainly has to the press in general. He's called them, when he ran for president, as the enemy of the people. I think that in terms of trying to reel up and galvanize his base, going after the press, specifically the kind of what he would call kind of the, I guess you would call kind of the mainstream or establishment press, is something that really works for Donald Trump. From an optical standpoint, it's something that Democrats can use against Republicans. It's kind of a cudgel, saying that the Republicans are trying to take away press freedom. So it really works for both sides from an optical vantage point, I believe.
Well, and you think about just the frequency. I mean, the president has sued the New York Times 4 times in the last 10 months. He was just going after journalist Maggie Haberman this weekend, who questioned his physical and, mental fitness. Just the frequency of it, does that undercut the seriousness of some of these, legal attempts?
Yes, I think it probably does. But I also think that in terms of Donald Trump, for Donald Trump's case, politically, this is probably advantageous in terms of just galvanizing the political base. And that's what Donald Trump tries to do. He tries to basically make a tete-a-tete between him. He would say he's kind of the Tribune. The People's Tribune, as Andrew Jackson said, versus one of his heroes, versus the press, who I think he would say is basically liberal. You'd probably say is socialist or communist. So this really works to his political benefit. What's actually going to happen, I don't know, but I will say that Donald Trump is not the first to go after reporters for leaking information. Actually, George W. Bush and then Barack Obama went after New York Times reporter James Risen for leaking information about a botched attempt to go into Iran in 2006. And Barack Obama really spent a lot of time going after, at least his Justice Department, but eventually they backed down toward the end of the Obama administration on that.
Yeah, and Rich, just before I let you go, so what message does this latest lawsuit send to other outlets and other reporters, you think?
I think it says basically says, watch out. It says, do not report anything that the president does not like. But that being said, I think most reporters, most journalistic outlets, if you will, are not going to accept that from the president. They're going to probably fight. And this is real. There can be very bellicose in many respects on both sides. So I think this is something that really, from a base standpoint, works for the president, probably works for the press in terms of trying to support press freedom, and probably works for the Democrats. The Democrats saying that they are really the advocates of the ideation of there being a free press in the United States of America.
I know the lead attorney for the New York Times calling this a brazen act and an obvious First Amendment violation. We'll be watching those testimonies and see what comes of them this week. Rich Rubino, got to end it there. Thank you so much, sir, as always. Good to see you. Have a wonderful day.
My pleasure. Good to see you again. Thank you.
Well.